People of God, I welcome all of you to our new show. I know you have been waiting for this show, and I know God will use this show to bless you in a special way. This is our new show entitled Contending Earnestly for the Christian Faith in our universities and colleges. You are welcome. We will bring to your doorsteps this show every Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. every Friday. If you are watching us all the way from Ghana, it will be 9 p.m. and UK will be 10 p.m. So I welcome you. God richly bless you. Stay tuned. People of God, I'm happy to introduce to you our special guest for this show. He's not just going to be a special guest just for today. Almost every Friday, we will have him, and I'm happy to introduce to you Dr. John Wesley. I will give him the opportunity for him to introduce himself to us. So, Doug, you are welcome to our new show.
Thank you, Papa, the very Reverend Moses Entry. Dear viewers, it is very exciting to meet with you this evening through this medium. My name is John Wesley. Currently, I am an assistant professor of music at Wesleyan University in Middletown, Connecticut, the United States of America. And I am also a ministerial candidate, being trained as a minister for the Methodist Church Ghana in the North American Mission Diocese. We thank God for giving us this great opportunity to gather like this. And before I proceed to say anything further, I think I'm going to yield to the very Reverend Moses Mchi if there is any preliminary comments before I proceed with what I have for us today.
So our viewers, this is our new show, and every Friday we are going to see Dr. John Wesley. He is going to discuss a lot of issues with us, and as we are fully aware, our children will go to our colleges and universities, and they will come back, and we will not see them in our churches again. So the question is, what is happening and what is going on? And so some of the ideologies that we have in our universities and our colleges, Dr. is going to lead us to discuss. I will give him the opportunity to do his presentation. So, Doug, the topic for today.
Thank you very much, Papa. The topic for today is, and you shall be like God. The impact of secular humanism on our youth today. First and foremost, I would like to give thanks to the Almighty God for enabling us to begin this program. It has been in the pipeline for some time, and God has opened the way. And also, I will say many thanks to my father in the Lord, the very Reverend Moses Mchi, for offering me this opportunity on his big platform to deal with some of the issues that challenge the faith of many Christians nowadays, especially our young people who attend public universities and colleges in the United States of America and other parts of the world. Before I come to the topic, I have a very long and winding introduction to better contextualize the issues that we will be dealing with throughout this series. It is increasingly becoming the norm that many of our young people, born and raised in the church, abandon their Christian faith, as our Papa said, during and after pursuing higher education in the university. Some turn into agnostics. And by agnostics, I mean people who believe that, yeah, God may exist, but who cares? They do not claim neither faith nor disbelieve in Him. Others also become atheists, people who do not believe that God exists at all. The reason for this occurrence is not too complex to identify. Nowadays, by the time most of our young people complete high school and enter the university, they've already been caught up in a warfare of worldviews about existence and the meaning of life. I've used the terminology here, and I think it is important I define that from the onset. The terminology is worldview. I'm holding in my hand here a book authored by Natasha Crane. The title is called Faithfully Different, Regaining Biblical Clarity in a Secular Culture. It's an amazing book to read. It was published this year. In the introduction, John Stonestreet says something about worldviews, which is so important for me to share with you. And I'm quoting him. He says, worldview matters. Whether or not we realize it, everyone has a worldview. We all see the world through our most basic beliefs about life and the world. To be human is to live from a worldview. This feature of humanity separates us from all the other animals. Not only do we exist, we think about existing. We wonder why we are here and what it all means. We imagine how the world could be different and work to change it. We ask big questions like, does life have purpose? Is there such a thing as right and wrong? Who decides? Quote and unquote. So, as Stonestreet rightly puts it, to be human is to live from a worldview. And in short, we can explain this to mean that a worldview is basically what people believe to be true. Our worldview controls what we do with the facts of our daily experience. For example, if you live in somewhere Africa and your belief is that malaria is caused by witches and wizards, you are unlikely to seek a conventional medical treatment in a hospital when you are afflicted with one. There is the likelihood that you will seek a spiritual remedy by going to a native doctor, a herbalist, or a traditional priest. Your belief may be that if you drink some better herbs and bath with its solution, you'll be cured. Let's take another example, an unpalatable one. If you live in the United States of America, for instance, and your belief is that an unborn child is not yet a human being and therefore has no life, no capacity to think, then abortion to you may simply be a matter of getting rid of an unwanted clot of blood in your womb or tissue. You are unlikely to attach any moral significance to that action because of your worldview. So Aborting a baby in that context could mean like trimming your fingernails or your hair when they're too grown. Let me give you the last example before I move on. A person whose worldview denies the existence of God may set himself or herself as the sovereign being, independent of any transcendent being who rules over the affairs of this universe or determines how one should live. To such a person, any idea of an interventionist deity is infantile, as Richard Dawkins, one of the famous atheists of our time, states in his book, The God Delusion. And I quote him: "There is something infantile in the presumption that somebody else has a responsibility to give your life meaning and point. The truly adult view, that is to say, the truly matured view, by contrast, is that our life is as meaningful, as full, and as wonderful as we choose to make it." End of quote. So, in effect, our worldview shapes how we live, act, and think about the world. But it is equally important to note that our worldview can either help us to see the world clearly or can hinder our clear perception of the world. That is to say that our worldview can either help us live well or lead us astray. Historically, many people have lived with a religious worldview, particularly the Judeo-Christian worldview that orients the meaning of life and existence around God. The most basic Judeo-Christian view about God that has reigned over the years is that God is the creator. That is a worldview. The universe in which we live and all that is therein, according to this worldview, was created by God, as explicitly stated in Genesis chapter 1, verse 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The belief that God is the creator is celebrated over and over in the Judeo-Christian scriptures. Let's consider a few of them. Psalm 36, verse 6. It says, "By the word of the Lord the heavens were made, their starry host by the breath of his mouth." Psalm 90, verse 2. "Before the mountains were born, or you were brought forth, the whole world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God." Psalm 121, 1 and 2. "I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from?" I know Christians like to quote this scripture, particularly in times of hardships and troubles. "I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from?" My help comes from the Lord. Take note, the maker of heaven and earth. Psalm 124, verse 8. "Our help is in the name of the Lord, who made heaven and earth." Isaiah chapter 40, verse 28. I call this one the Judeble Ambule approach. One tell one I won't blow. Do you not know? Have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. So as we can see from all these passages from the Psalms and Isaiah that I have relayed, this is what the holy people of God, inspired by the Holy Spirit, wrote about God, the Creator. There are many more. But does God also say something about himself regarding creation? The answer is yes. Job 38 reveals so. And let me give you just a bit of a context. In the tribulations, trials and tribulations of Job, he asked God so many questions. And then at some point, God turned the tables on him. And he asked Job to brace himself for some questions. And if you study that text carefully, you see how God himself reveals the kind of power, might, and authority behind his own creation. Turn with me to the book of Job chapter 38. Job 38. I'm reading from verse 1, but when I get to some point, I'll leave it there and just continue. It says, Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this who darkens counsel by words without knowledge? Now prepare yourself like a man. I will question you, and you shall answer me. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? To what were its foundations fastened? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut in the sea with doors when it burst forth and issued from the womb? When I made the clouds its garment and thick darkness its swaddling band, when I fixed my limit for it and set bars and doors, when I said, This far you may come, but no farther, and here your proud waves must stop. Have you commanded the morning since your days began, Job? Answer me, and cause the dawn to know its place, that it might take hold of the ends of the earth, and the wicked be shaken out of it? It takes on form like clay under a seal, and stands out like a garment. From the wicked their light is withheld, and the upraised arm is broken. Have you entered the springs of the sea? Or have you walked in search of the depths? Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the doors of the shadow of death? Have you comprehended the breadth of the earth? Tell me, Job, if you know all this. Beloved, dear listener, this is how God testifies about his involvement in creation. He made all things. So, as shown in the Judeo-Christian worldview, the multifarious things we see around us, such as trees, mountains, valleys, the sea, rivers, animals, to mention a few, were all divinely decreed into existence by God. God also, according to this view, created man and woman in his own image, as special and distinct from all other creatures. The belief about how the universe and all the things therein came into being, from this Judeo-Christian perspective, is called creationism or creationism. And this is what has been taught in the church and reigned in society for many centuries. So our children grow up in the church believing that God is the creator of the universe. And in fact, he sustains the universe by his divine providence. Not only does the Judeo-Christian worldview assert that God is the creator and sustainer of the universe by divine decree and divine providence, but also God is a moral giver. God determines what is right or wrong, and generally how we should relate with God and one another, as revealed in the Decalogue or the 10 Commandments in Exodus chapter 20. Ephesians 2:10 says something so beautiful. It shows how God, the moral giver, empowers us, those who believe in him, to live as will be pleasing to him. It reads, For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. Because good works pleases God, God rewards good deeds and punishes evil deeds. And scripture is replete with passages that affirm this view. I hope you are following. So generally, as Thomas Aquinas, one of the great, fathers of the faith, once argued, there is an ethical phenomenon in human beings. We have conscience against which good and evil are distinguished. And it's a God-given gift. In his book, The Vanishing Conscience, Dr. John MacArthur, coming from a biblical perspective, shows the role that conscience plays in society, especially in our understanding of sin, guilt, and grace. Because the conscience is such an important aspect of our mental faculty, some of our fathers of the faith wrote poems about that. A typical example is Charles Wesley's poem, I Want a Principle Within, which is sung in many Methodist churches as a hymn. So those of us in the Methodist Church Ghana can, learn this hymn from the Methodist hymn book numbered 626. The fourth stanza says something about conscience, and I want to quote it. Quick as the apple of an eye, O God, my conscience make. Awake my soul when sin is nigh, and keep it still awake. In every human society, people believe in moral values, of which reward and punishment are based. The existence of these moral values presupposes that there is a moral giver. It actually ascertains that. And that, in the Judean-Christian worldview, this moral giver is God. While this worldview has reigned in society over many centuries, the tables have now turned. For instance, in the case of how things came into being, there are many people of our current generation, particularly the younger ones, who believe that the universe did not come into existence by any divine decree, but rather through a scientific process called the Big Bang. Boom! According to this theory, and let me try to explain this in simple terms. The universe began as a very hot, small, and dense force with no stars or atoms or form or structure. Then about 13.8 billion years ago, space expanded very quickly and started the formation of atoms, which eventually led to the formation of stars and galaxies. So for the proponents of this theory, the universe is still expanding today and will continue to expand. Just as the universe was not created by God, human beings were not created by God either. That is the contemporary belief. Instead, the belief is that human beings came into being through a process known as evolution by natural selection. Evolution is such a big area in academia, particularly in the area of the natural sciences. But as far as its implication or application to human beings are concerned, we can understand it in a way I'm going to phrase it. Here is it. Human beings evolved from apes by a lengthy process of change. So according to this theory, there's scientific evidence that shows that the physical and behavioral traits shared by all people originated from ape-like ancestors and evolved over a period of approximately 6 million years. Look at that. The apes, out of which human beings evolved, were found in Africa. So these African apes also evolved out of other ape-like creatures who also evolved from other ape-like creatures. So the whole process of human evolution came from ape-like creatures ad infinitum. That means the evolution emerged and developed from the same way again and again forever. So if we are to believe that supposition, it means that as we go on, perhaps more human beings may be evolving out of apes. So the implication here is that we may not be able to determine the primary ape out of which human beings evolved. Now, if the universe came into being by a big bang many billion years ago, and humans evolved through the process of evolution by natural selection, then we are independent. By our independence, each of us is responsible for his or her own morality. You don't have to live according to the dictates of any omnipotent or omnipresent or all-knowing God, omniscient God. And this is nowadays the reigning worldview in our society. So we are in a generation where there seems to be a dramatic shift and a decisive breakaway from interpretations and definitions that once upon a time had religious perspectives. Academicians call this phenomenon secularization. And to help us understand the term secularization, let me quote a definition that Ravi Zacharias, the late renowned Christian apologist, gave in one of his public lectures on the deep meanings and hard questions about existence. He said, and I quote him, "Secularization is the process by which religious ideas, institutions, and interpretations are deemed to have lost their social relevance or significance." End of quote. In his treatment of this subject, Ravi Zacharias observed that although, in some sense, religious views may still be held, they are pushed over to the margins when it comes to the hard questions of meaning, essence, and destiny. So, religious views are no more considered as serious voices in our current generation. And any casual observer, you don't have to be a careful observer, any casual observer can see that there's been a paradigm shift in a dramatic way on how we think about anything. To help us understand this, Ravi Zacharias goes on to, give us an illustration that clearly represents the process of secularization. And I'm just paraphrasing that. Now, let's assume there is a panel of 4 people on radio or television.
Doc, sorry to interject. You have given us the introduction. Now you are moving to the main topic for today.
Yes.
Before our kids go to our universities and colleges, they go with this religious worldview that God is the creator and moral giver. And so they go with this religious worldview. And you are saying when they get to our colleges and universities, they face the worldview. So we want to get it. Now, so there's this question from Da Costa Abuaje. Do apes exist? So, because I know some of our mothers and fathers are listening. And so when they get to our universities and colleges, the question is what happens? For all these years, so at least 16 or 17 years, they have held on to this religious view. God is the creator. He created everything, including human beings. And then he or she goes to university, coming back with different worldview. So help us. Why? What is happening?
Thank you very much, Papa. In fact, I have systematized this introduction in such a way that I will get there.
Okay.
And the reason why I want to follow this logically is that this is an issue that we should not downplay. But in order to understand and then critically evaluate, the influences that these, philosophies have been having on our kids and children who go to the universities, it is important for us to begin from somewhere. That's why I'm giving all this lengthy introduction. So, Papa, please, I will get there in a moment and this question will be answered. If you
Thank
permit
you.
me to move on. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you very much, Papa.
Proceed.
So, thank you, sir. So, like Ravi Zacharias is saying, now the Christian worldview has been pushed over. And he gives us this example. Now, listen to this. Let's assume that there is a panel on a television studio or on any platform like as we have met, discussing issues that are pertinent to the betterment of society. Let's assume that the panel consists of 1, a lawyer, 2, a professor of psychology in a university, 3, a medical doctor or a medical practitioner, and then 4, there is a pastor or a priest. Whatever the psychologist or the professor of psychology, the law person, and then the medical practitioner will say will be deemed objective by society. Let the pastor or priest speak. And that view will be deemed prejudicial because he is coming from a Judeo-Christian worldview. We will get to Papa's an answer to Papa's question in a moment. Now, let me continue in this line of thought by giving you an example from a personal experience that I had on Facebook somewhere last year that really, borders on this claim by Ravi Zacharias that the Judeo-Christian worldviews have been pushed onto a corner. People don't want to hear it. A popular actor of the Kumawood movie industry in Ghana came out to declare that he is a womanizer and, in fact, has had sexual intercourse with more than 600 women. And I believe that if there are people who are in Ghana watching us, they may know that person. The actor made that claim on an interview with one of the popular bloggers in Ghana. And one of my Facebook friends shared that on my page. Comments beneath the interview video, at that time was already over 100,000. So after watching the interview, my fingers itched and I posted a comment coming from the perspective of Christianity. Ay. Hi! I was roasted like beef with pepper sauce for a kebab. Less than a minute after I posted my comment, the first attack came like this. And I am paraphrasing. It's still fresh on my mind. Haba! Christianity has destroyed this one hurdler. So the person continued. Before the white man brought this foreign religion onto our land, that is Ghana in this context, men could marry many women or have as many concubines as they desired. Having more women and sexual partners has been part of our lives as Africans over the years. And you Christians and your God and your so-called views cannot change that. Anyway, the implication here is that Christianity and its centrality on God has become a kind of a cosmic killjoy that suppresses people's sexual pleasures. So you see, this is how in our times, and Papa, the answer to your question will be coming soon, a religious worldview can be deemed as a violation of people's freedoms to certain things. Therefore, if we can live the way we want, we must move away from interpreting and then defining the meaning of life and existence from the Judeo-Christian perspective. In that regard, we will be free-thinking people in a free society. Yeyi nyame si nkyɛn. Na de aya na Kristofoɔ no ne ye Jews som no sɛ de enim na keka fa Nyankopɔn ho no ye to twene a Afe yɛbɛde yɛn ho na de yɛpɛ sɛ yɛyɛ yɛn ho biara no yɛayɛ. Ɛwɔ sɛ yɛwɔbere yɛn ho wɔ atɛkyɛm te sɛ mprako a na kyerɛ sɛ yɛyɛ. Na kyerɛ sɛ yɛaba abɛyɛ te sɛ prako fɛntɛmframa odi atɛkyɛ. So this is the kind of ideology, now coming to Papa's question, that confronts our children today, even in kindergartens, elementary schools, and high schools. And when our children begin their pursuit of higher knowledge at the university, the battle for their minds towards these secular ideas reaches its apex. At the university, let me tell you, they are surrounded by intellectuals, some of whom identify as secularists and belong to the movement of militant atheism with a specific agenda, claiming to be champions of free thinking that can shape and transform every individual for the betterment of society. These intellectuals unleash on our young people's minds secular ideologies that erodes every belief in God and the confidence they may have in a religious worldview. And these people are so unapologetic about their willingness, to the extent that they will label as nonsensical any beliefs rooted in faith rather than scientific evidence. And so these secular intellectuals even enjoy or they relish subjecting Christianity and its protagonist, Jesus Christ, not only to a critical scrutiny, but mockery. They often classify Christianity as a bigoted religion, because of its exclusive claims of salvation through Jesus Christ alone. The deity of Christ, Yesu Christo ni nyamisu, his virgin birth, his earthly ministry, his sinless life, death on the cross, resurrection, and ascension to heaven are often dismissed as myth, or worse, mere fanciful fiction meant to entertain the intellectually dumb person.
So, Dog. So, in other words, we can say that they think Christianity is not allowing people to have the freedom that they need.
Thank you, Papa. That's it. That's it. Because if you are a Christian, you are constrained. Like, oh, me person can me trebi kakra. Yeah, brother, that yen bro. Afe Bible say, Mfata o Kristo ni so yes abofo. Papa bi nyum bi obo ye, che beat no momo ede o. Nyum krampo was saying, it's about a map, but oni bi woni botom. Oni mai nka onya bi obepe, but sika ni botom. Nti na dwene ni nsusu ye nyina ye den aka ni tirim. But we ye Kristo ni a nyame asem hye yen. Se eniema bi wo ho a etia na asem enti ma ye nye. Enne na papa ewiase empe. That's what the world despises now, particularly in these public institutions.
So, Dog, if you look at our churches and even some of our universities, the structures are there to train people to have faith in God. These ideologies, do they also have that kind of structure? Do they meet? Because as you said earlier on, our kids will be going through Sunday school and then they will go to a university or any or college and just give them the first semester. Just the first semester. They come back home and they don't want to be in the church.
Mm,
So the question is, when they get to our universities,
mm.
do they have well organized institution or something like that that they teach them some of these things or what?
Thank you, Papa. Much of the things that I have discussed so far, in many universities around the world, form part of the natural sciences courses
Mhm,
and then courses in philosophy. If you take philosophy, you are likely
mhm,
to encounter all these things that I have enumerated so far. And if your child is not lucky and meets an avowed atheist who is a hater of God, your child is doomed. There are some of them who are actually sympathetic with the Christian faith. Just that they will try to say, well, if you are in the Christian faith, it's like you are in some kind of a shackle, and they have to break away that shackle so that you can be a free person and a free thinker. And so there are some courses in some universities. There are courses that are mounted purposefully
mm,
to actually challenge some of these Judeo Christian views. In such classes, the aim is one: let us break whatever beliefs they have in God and tear it apart so that we dim their confidence forever in the so-called God who, in the minds of these secularists, does not exist. But people have put their faith in him, and therefore they are constrained in thinking for and about themselves. So, yes,
mm,
it depends on the kind of university. In some universities, they allow some kind of free speech and then thinking where professors can also mount courses that kind of promote Christian ideals. But you are unlikely to find such programs in a public university. You may find them in the Christian private universities. I know a friend of mine, my pastor, he attends Boston College, and he tells me he's studying theology there. I mean, Reverend Benjamin Yeboah, and he tells me one of his lecturers, who is a Catholic priest. Let me put it in the right terms. We usually say Roman fathers, but he's a Catholic priest, and he's an African. He told me about him, that this man is he has a strong conviction of the Christian faith to the extent that when he enters the classroom, the first thing he will say to the people is that, hey, I am a professional Christian. This is my faith, and this is what I'm coming to teach. He's unapologetic
mm,
about what he believes in. But,
mm,
Papa, frankly speaking, such professors are rare because people
mm.
fear for their jobs. And so, people, in public universities, people may come in and to say to you, hey, we didn't bring our children here for Christian indoctrination. And that is true.
Hmm.
That is true. That is why, Papa, it is my prayer that a time will come. Christians will also get the resources to build universities where, that will be affordable for our kids and children, where they will come in, study, and then still continue in their faith journey with Christ.
But Doc, some of the universities that we have around, they were
Mm,
started by Christians. They will talk about committed, very good Christians.
mm.
So what is happening in our universities and our colleges?
We have succumbed and yielded to secular ideologies, and for some of them probably it could have been lack of funding to continue on running the institutions, and because of that they yielded that opportunity to the state, and the state comes in and everything else spoils. That is the problem we find ourselves in today. I think so far one of the universities that has been one of the faith institutions that has been so successful in building faith-based universities and maintaining, their old faith-based universities is the Catholic Church.
Hmm,
It's the Catholic Church so far.
hmm,
And so in the US, yeah, if you want your children to attend a mission school, you are likely to find a Catholic mission school than a Protestant one, which is all good. The Baptist may have a few available, and the Methodist may also have few available. But for the most part, they are all secular. And in these, Papa, that's one funny thing. Let me say it here. In these public universities, do you know that they can allow all kinds of faiths in the name of diversity? But Christianity, students who believe in Buddhism or Hinduism can do a campus-wide prayer sessions where they will bring, students together, go through transcendental meditations, and by that process, distill to them the basic tenets of their faith. Not so with Christians. I don't think a Christian group on any public university may be allowed to organize a prayer vigil, let alone embark on an evangelistic mission within its campus. It's sad. It's sad. And there is a reason for that. Because when we are progressing in this series, we will realize who is behind all this.
So, Doc, after giving them training for 16 to 17 years, they will just go to our universities and colleges just for one semester. I'm talking about just 3 or 4 months. Is it maybe, don't you think that the church is doing something wrong?
Papa, thank
Because just look at the period from Sunday school through to that period, and some of them will be even confirmed in some of the churches before they will even go to university. So what is happening? Is it that we are not teaching them because they'll go and within just 3 months, or is about themselves? Maybe they think they are not having their freedom whilst they are with us and even in the church. And so when they get opportunity to go to university, for them is advantage, and then they start their own thing. What's your take on that?
Thank you very much, Papa. I think I'll get there at some point if there is still time for today's presentation. Now, let me answer this quickly. One of the things that we shouldn't forget as Christians is that Satan is powerful. We have been ignoring his devices and antics. If there is anything that Satan has succeeded in doing in the world today, is to cover up his tracks and deceiving people to think that he doesn't exist. Satan, Papa, what he does, this hunter does, is that it is not all the time that he will shoot at a prey. Sometimes when he goes into the bush in search of game and then he sees that there is a path where deer have been passing, he will look at an advantageous place, dig a hole, dig a trench deeply, and then he will use some loosely connected leaves and easily breakable woods to cover the hole. And so when the deer is coming, all that it knows is that, oh, I am plying my usual route. Until one day, the Obetiani Kukrum, he will land in the pit. Why you being quiet? It has become meat for somebody's meal. That is how Satan operates. And I may get there before the close of this session. Let's consider what happened in the Garden of Eden. People, our first parents, Adam and Eve, could have intimate fellowship with God. Nowadays, we have been praying, God, visit me. Oh, God, manifest yourself to me. God, I want to see your glory. They were getting all these benefits for free without any toil. Mutual friendship and fellowship. And they have lived in obedience to the Lord all this while until Kominini, That's how one of my fathers in the Lord, Mr. BCK Boboche, calls Satan, Kominini, that the Gehok of a hoe came in. And when he came in, Eve succumbed to him easily because of his cunning devices. So is the church not doing something right? Interestingly, I wrote a paper in one of our TEE courses for Papa Kofi. I'm the very Reverend Kofi Bat Martin. He threw a very brain-racking question. How should we disciple? Oh no, the question goes like this. How should our teaching transform the lives of the children entrusted in our hands? It's not an easy, there's no easy answer to such a question. And so some of the things that I distilled on the paper were this. But sometimes we assume that insofar as our children are born in the church, they are Christians. As the saying goes, it applies to being born in the church as well. And so here's the thing. We take it for granted that insofar as they are born inside the church, they will remain under the feet of the Lord. So one of the things we neglect doing is evangelizing our own kids, both at home and then at church, particularly through the children's ministries. If we neglect to let the children know the whole concept and the total counsel of God concerning sin, repentance, and the wrath of God against all these ungodly acts, we risk losing them to the antics of Satan. Because, Papa, most of them, by the time they turn 17 and are about to go to college, they have no concept. It's like their understanding about salvation is so limited. They don't know the implications of falling out of grace. And so some of them take it for granted. And Papa, interestingly, some who fall out of the faith are even trained to become Sunday school helpers. They'll be memorizing the Bible. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him will not perish, but have everlasting life. All these they will rattle, but Papa, we hardly teach them the meaning and the implication of these texts. So when they are confronted with these secular intellectuals who constantly deride and bombard their Christian faith, especially in the public schools, they succumb to the secular ideologies and they ruin their relationship with God and even fellow human beings. Even sometimes, Papa, if you have observed, their relationship between the relationships between the children and the parents become sour. Because you want them to go one way, their professors are telling them, that is imprisonment. Go the other way. Be a free person. Be a free thinker. And so, Papa, if you realize there are certain adages or sayings that, sometimes pops from even the mouths of Christians that we don't realize their implications. Believe in yourself. Trust in yourself. Have confidence in yourself. And we use these phrases, particularly in context, when we want to motivate our children to do something greater. And that is what all this ideology of humanism is about. And I believe
so Doc, now even some of them they are saying love yourselves. And sometimes you hear some of them and so Dog, okay. We should stop telling them stories.
Yes.
And teach them.
Yes.
The basic things in Christianity.
Yes.
Because you see, Sunday school is about stories and as we said earlier on, we don't take our time to teach them. And even sometimes when they are asking us questions, where we don't even want to address some of the questions, because some of us, we don't even have answers, because we believe and we talk about faith, but they go to our universities and our colleges, and they are facing real life challenges, and they are having that opportunity to ask questions. And I know university, you will have the opportunity to ask questions, and the lecturer will take his time to address some of the questions that you may have. But in the church, sometimes that's an unfortunate thing. So
Just to
so
add a few
I
thoughts.
want you to continue
Okay, Papa, just
from
to
where
add a
you
few
left.
thoughts here. Thank you very much for
But
for.
no, before that, our viewers, listeners, if you have any question, feel free, look at the chat box, send it there. Dr. NCS will address whatever question that you have. Please do well to send them to us, and then he will address them. Doc, I don't know if the first question that came, you want to say something about it. Do it exists?
Yes, Papa, apes do exist. If you go to my hometown, the Shrine, the Bunahafu region, if you go into the forest, you are likely to encounter a lot of them. They still exist. But there's one thing that I know. Up to now, these apes remain apes. I haven't seen any of them that has evolved into a human being. Well, the evolutionaries, evolutionaries are claiming that it takes a lengthy period of time. I mean, look at the period that I quoted: 5 million, 6 million years for such an evolution to take place. And at the same time, well, this may sound too simplistic and unscientific, but I would say it. I wonder how long these apes live.
Hmm.
Probably they live longer than us. And so if they
But
can
they can't evolve to become human beings. Okay, Doc, we have two important comments. One from this wonderful brother, Brother Wood, the Vice Chairman, Youth Council, North American Mission, and there's another one from one of our fathers, one of our ministers in Ghana, also for Penny Achrefi. And so let's address Brother Wood's a comment, and then I'll bring in also for Penny Achrefi.
Thank you very much, Brother Emmanuel Wood. Yeah, let me read it. They go through Sunday school, confirmation, youth ministries, etc. I believe sometimes what is lacking is practical or experiential Christianity. Brother Wood, you are right. But there is something that we are missing. Anytime I study Paul's epistles to the churches, it baffles my mind. Do you know what he does? He will first and foremost lay down the doctrines, the propositional truths on which our faith is based. And then he will come to applications, how we should apply these doctrines to our personal lives. See, if there is anything that the church nowadays has been downplaying in the church, Papa, is doctrine. We don't pay attention to our doctrines. All that we care about is to draw applications from the text to supposedly help the people, forgetting that a clearer articulation and understanding of the fundamental doctrines are crucial for a proper interpretation and application of the text to life. That is where one of the problems lies. And Papa, you bear witness with me that nowadays Christianity has become experiential, phenomenological.
So okay, let me, Doc, thank you, but let me bring in Penina Trefi.
It comes back to the same thing. Yes, indeed.
One of the wonderful ministers we have around.
Yes, Papa, thank you so much for this thought. God richly bless you for this contribution. He says, yes, indeed, the meaning of salvation and the gospel is not there. Only heard knowledge without personal encounter with Jesus the Christ. And like I'm saying, the personal encounter will come when we have taken our time to patiently walk them through the gospel message for them to understand its basic tenets and demands, and then lead them into an application so that they can encounter this wonderful Jesus Christ. If that occurs, it will be extremely difficult for these secular, intellectuals to deceive them. They are well grounded and well prepared to respond to whatever challenges they face with the word of God. And Papa, we will be amazed that if they go through such a process, they will stand up to contend for the faith that is being derided in the public institutions.
In fact, Doug, on our page where we were posting the flyer, we stated that this program is for students, parents, and pastors. And maybe we have to add all the church leaders. So there's another one from Da Costa, secular music, referring to God to be an object. What is your take?
Brother Da Costa, God richly bless you for this thought. That is so true. And it is oh wow. In fact, I bless the name of the Lord this evening. Papa, you know why? All these questions that are coming are anticipations of some of the things that I'll be treating in the course of this series. Yes.
Okay.
Because when I veered into the humanism proper and we learned of all its branches, we will get to know that entertainment is playing a crucial role. And, it is coming through a process that I would describe as emotionalism. We will get there. It is so true. And these secular musicians and even some of the gospel musicians have a warped view of God to the point that whatever they say about this omnipotent God in their songs does not actually reflect who he is.
So Doc, before you proceed, let me ask you this question. What makes a song a secular song? Is it the words? The whatever? Just help us, because we want to, because as we said earlier, some of even the people that we sing, they are singing gospel songs. Some of the doctrines in their songs. But the people that we consider as unbelievers, and sometimes you listen to some of their songs and you listen and the theology is sound. So,
Papa, in the context of what we are discussing now, I will perhaps explain a secular song as any kind of song that places man at the center and then does away or do away with God. It is only about man and his needs, his desires and aspirations. It is not about telling anybody to revere, worship, and to acknowledge this mighty God whom many claim to believe. That is a secular song. And here's the thing. Insofar as we are in the world, we are likely to encounter this. But the point is this: whenever you are confronted with an ideology or a philosophy that is coming through music or through speech or whatever it is, if you are a child of God, truly grounded in the faith, you should not be swayed. You should not be swayed.
So, Doc, can you address one of my daughters?
Most of our children are sometimes influenced by non-Christian peers. How can one prepare their children for the wolves in sheep clothing? Lindsay, Leshia,
Yeah.
right. I mean, that is an excellent question. That's an excellent question. Yesterday, I met a Christian sister, and we're talking about a similar issue like this. Most of our children are, fickle-minded, and they believe things so easily. And so sometimes peer pressure can lead them into all sorts of things that epitomize these secularist ideas that we are talking about. And like Lesia is saying, some of these friends to our children may appear very innocent, very noble, with no evil intention, and in fact, sometimes even to the betterment of their own knowledge, they don't know that whatever ideas they are sharing with your daughter is not compatible with the faith in which you are raising your daughter. Now, this is what you do as a parent. You have to guide the minds of your young children. Guide their minds. And how does this work? It works through your personal acts of evangelism and discipleship in the household. First and foremost, let them understand who they are. And that is to say that I know people may not like this stance, but let me be clear here. Let us be careful with the kinds of friends our children make. We have to, as Christians. Sometimes we think, oh, insofar as we are believers, even if they associate with people or children whose parents are unbelievers, maybe through us we can draw them to Christ. That is true, but only to some extent. The one who stands inside the pit is stronger than the one who stands on top when it comes to pulling. The force of gravity works. Somebody gave an analogy. He said that if you see a tiny child drowning in the sea and you attempt to rescue that tiny little child, you must be a good swimmer because that child possesses the strength in the face of death to sink both of you. That is why watchfulness is so important in our current dispensation. I don't know, Lesia, if that helps.
No, let me. I know some of our kids are getting ready to go to school. Some already there, some next week, and then the rest of the week, the days ahead of us. First, I want you to address the parents. How can they equip their children before they leave? And then the second aspect will be the church.
Okay. Thank you very much, Papa. Where dear Maminka Nitri said your
No, but you will miss it because Licia will not hear.
Oh, Licia will not understand. Okay.
She's from Jamaica. So.
Oh, okay, Licia. All right. So I will say it both in Tree and then in English. Papa the American here. Yansha Nenso. Obronsamo Mate said you to baby. And what you banning through school will be the beautiful campus, very nice and embracing people. And let me be very frank with you. The hostility is not so conspicuous for you to note it right from the onset. Yɛbɛgye wo ba no fɛ so. Baabi a ɔsɛ yɛde ne da, yɛde ne bɛto. Deɛ ɔsɛ yɛkyerɛ ne mani hunu ɛwɔ school hɔ. Ne first day a waba, yɛbɛkyerɛ ne ne nyinaa. School no ho mmara ɛne deɛ keka ka ho. Afei, ɛfiri hɔ kɔ no, the real deal. And it's ɔbɛhyɛ aseɛ sɛ ɔretake classes. And let me also be fair to these professors. And yes, a professor be or how abon adwene mu pɔ sɛ media me ba no me bɛsɛe wo ba. Wɔno no deɛ ɛde atete no a wɔnim ɛna ɛfɔme n'adwene a wɔde kyerɛ adeɛ. Ma menka ne twi, wei deɛ memfa borɔfo mfrɛm biribi nti. Wɔba me hɔ a mekyerɛ adeɛ yi a deɛ meyɛ nie. Menim nipa ko a meyɛ. na menim sɛ mentumi nkɔ gyina saa kyerɛkyerɛ bea hɔ bɛfa me gyidie by force nhyɛ nkurɔfoɔ tiri mu no. Deɛ meyɛ ne sɛ meyɛ no through me nneyɔeɛ, me nkasayɛ mu, ɛne m'ayɔnkofa with mmɔfra no bi. Enti ɛwɔ mu a papa bɛhu na obi de asɛmbisa bi aba na manya akwanya pa na afei mede asɛm na ma no. Ebi hɔ a na ayɛ yie, ebi so wɔ hɔ a ne ɔde abufuo na wasɔre kɔ, bata ne deɛ memadu aba no, ne aka ne yɛ honhom kronkron adwuma. Now let me turn this. So what I would advise here is that one of the things that we need to do, we shouldn't stop constant conversations and interactions with our kids who are in college. In fact, college life sometimes can be dreadful for our kids. They take so many courses, they reading load. I mean, a number of issues that affect them. And once again, family tree. Metemi office ya brante bi a mene ne beye free me de nyame asem o mane nkakra na woje ande bi meto papa na nim hancho esu ne nsaguniti ebue adan ne girlfriend ne gya no na akọfa obi foforo enti wanya broken heart abrante etemi class osu yesu ye na me che ne kwasha me office na me che ne wibre bi na mka chen se wahu dia meka no se wusuo mo maame na wote ase na de hu me erade a saa nima we nyina ema esanse nyankopon na bedi w'anim e de wakọ the rightful person or the right person eho. These are some of the issues. Ebinim ho when they enter because of peer pressure, they engage in all forms of illicit relationships that harm one, first and foremost, their psyche. Some of them do develop psychological problems throughout, and so you as the parent, you have to be closer. I am not saying, I mean, the moment they enter college, that is where some of them find their future partners. But we have to guide them to do that in the Christian way. We can do that by constant visits, telephone conversations, and making sure that we ask about who their companions and friends are. That is so important. So that if we have any form of advice, we can give it to them. And quite apart from that, encouragement is so crucial here. Encouragement. Some of our parents, Papa Mesirambeka yebu abemdodo, and we do not find any good thing in our children. We have to avoid that, particularly when they enter college. Said your situation here, whatever they are going through, we have to be sympathetic with them. Listen to them, and then help them to navigate the various strains of emotional challenges that they may perforce encounter. That would be my advice. And finally, encourage them in every university campus. I am sure you are going to find like-minded people, brothers and sisters in the Lord. You have to move them. Oh, in fact, and I'll constitute a panel at some point to bring on this show some of the Wesleyan students that I interacted with. So beautiful, led by one young Cameroonian American lady. Oh my goodness. This young woman is a fighter for the faith. And they will come and share with us how they say it through. It will be an eye-opening experience for most of our young people who are about to enter. Here's the thing. They have lived it. They have experienced it. And so they will be the best, resource persons to share with us some of these things that I'm sharing with you right now. So I believe some of these few tips may help.
Okay. Before Doug, you wrap up. Something just dropped on my mind, and I think we have been discussing this behind the scenes. Is there anything, and I know we are putting things together, is there anything that we can put together as a form of maybe a handbook or something, how we can help the African students before college, things that they have to know
mm,
while they are there,
mm,
things that they have to know.
mm,
And we can even bring some of these ideologies,
mm,
and we can use Bible passages to address them. And in case they are confronted with some of these ideologies,
mm,
some of the steps that they can also use to help them to stand in the
mm,
faith. I think that we can also develop something for them in that way.
mm. Yes, Papa. Thank you. Yes, I know there are several good resources out there that may be helpful in
Mm,
this endeavor. However, um, we have to also bring in the cultural factors.
mm,
And so, what we decide
mm,
doing is that after this series, what we are going to, the next step is to compile
mm,
all these notes that I am developing through search, research, and then reading other people's works, and then the inputs that, some of these questions that are coming.
mm,
We are going to compile that into a booklet and
mm,
then launch it to help
mm,
these
mm,
young minds to
mm,
navigate. In fact, we have a duty. We have a duty. Of late, Second Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4 to 5 has been, ringing on my mind. Papa, we have a duty
mm,
to tear down
mm,
all these secular
mm.
ideologies that are raising or exalting themselves against the knowledge of God and bringing into subjection every mind under Christ. It's a call to battle. It's a call
But
to warfare.
yeah, no, but you are right, and I think our parents and even the church
Mhm.
must know these ideologies
Yes.
so that they can prepare uh, their children before they get to uh, college. And I think we also it's something that we need to do.
Yes.
But Doc, let me say something here. Our viewers, wonderful people of God, I see Da Costa say we need part two. Da Costa is not just part two. Every Friday we will meet, and then, as I said earlier on, Doctor will be leading us. We'll pick so many issues confronting our kids in our universities and in our colleges, and we'll be discussing them. And sometimes we even invite some of the students even to join us. And so it's not just going to be a 9-day wonder.
Yeah.
Every Friday when it's 5 p.m., we'll come and discuss some of these issues that our kids are facing in our universities. So, Doug, let me leave you for you to sum up what we have discussed so far
Okay.
and then give us some takeaway.
Thank you. So far, what I've been trying to do is to contextualize the issues that we will be dealing with, letting our viewers know where we are coming from and where we are going. In fact, today I can say that I have not even attempted a topic yet. I haven't, because of all these wonderful, fascinating questions that are emerging from even just the first part of the introduction. The second part of the introduction is there, and so I think time is fast spent now. So what I'm going to do, Papa, is that I just want to whet the appetite of our viewers for next Friday. One of the reigning ideologies that is fighting against the fate of the younger people is secular humanism. And secular humanism, there is a man who has written a wonderful book about that. He calls it the octopus of secular humanism, and he distills 8 different branches of humanism that, when they coalesce, it is like the strength of the octopus, a middle size or a small fragile looking creature that lives in the sea. But if we are distilling the scientific facts about this sea mammal, it will amaze you the kind of things the octopus can do. It is among one of the most well organized mammals in the world. It can deceive you so easily when you are pursuing it. It has a way of behaving like the chameleon. It can change its color depending on the color of the environment. In an attack, it can secrete some poisons that will blindfold you so that you don't see it. And even when you cut one of the arms, within a period of 6 weeks, it can grow back. And when it grips its prey, its suction power is like that of the boa constrictor. It is a bramuro or chichira mokuya. That's it. And that is exactly how Satan is working through this powerful ideology called humanism. That is what I'm going to deal with next Friday. And so next Friday, we can dive deeper into the topic on board, and you will be like God. We will know the genesis of secular humanism. Historically, people trace that back all the way to, let's say, 300 years ago. That's around the 1700s AD, during the age of the Enlightenment, when, reason became, the sole focus for inquiries into, scientific matters, or generally in the pursuit of objective truth. That is what scholars say. But as a believer, I can tell you that humanism didn't begin 300 years ago. It started in the Garden of Eden in Genesis chapter 3, when man, Adam, and his wife Eve succumbed to the deception of the enemy. He told them, eat the fruit and you will be like God himself. You wield power, authority, and you'll be wise, knowing good and evil. As believers, we might have heard of the story and we know the end. Satan didn't, kind of deliver what he promised to them. The result was shame, eternal separation from God, physical death, and pain. And we know, if you trace it all the way from Genesis chapter 4 until Christ came, we saw the consequences of the fall. The perfect world that God created, because mankind wanted to be like God, ditching him, and then being our own sovereign selves, believing and trusting in ourselves. Papa, we didn't go far. In Genesis chapter 4, the first murder occurred. In fact, in Genesis chapter 5, the first polygamy occurred.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in Genesis chapter 6, God regretted creating humans. You see, and Papa, it doesn't end there. Even though secular humanism, I will elaborate more next week, promises that if we can be free thinkers in a free society, not constrained by any God hypothesis or ideology, we will create a better society. We have seen the results. At least after humanism reached its apex in the 1780s, I think a couple of centuries later, we experienced the First World War. And the Second World War followed. And we are continually witnessing the atrocities that are happening around us. If we abandon God and relegate him to the corner, and you'll be an primary school, Jesus standing at the corner, singing hallelujah, amen. We didn't know the implications of this. And
So, Doc, it's like we need independence from God.
Yes. That is what humanism teaches. You are your own God. You don't need him. You don't need him. You don't need him. And Papa, our young children love this idea because they
Oh my goodness. But dog, if you look at where we are, where they are with you, and sometimes you think they don't have their liberty, and so they are always looking for opportunity where they will move away from you and all that. And so,
Yes.
can you just imagine if they don't have anything to do with God?
Mm.
But no, that would be dangerous. That would be chaos.
Papa, let me give you a funny scenario that happened between me and my, my children just a couple of days ago. I dropped the mom at work and we came home. I was constructing my new home studio, working, and so I asked them to go to their rooms to play around. The elderly daughter saw that no, I want to go to the basement some kohobi, and daddy
Mm,
is telling me to go to her room, and then she turns and then whispers into my younger daughter Joy's ears. But why did mommy give us daddy today as a babysitter? I mean, this is why will mommy do that? What kind of a babysitter are we having today? Do this, don't do that. Even at the age of 7, Papa,
mm,
see the thinking.
mm,
And for me, sometimes from these thoughts, when people say that, oh, the doctrine of, the original sin is a false doctrine, this is where I derive practically that truth from. Who teaches them to lie? At the age of 6 months, they will start deceptive antics. You want to give them the breast milk, they will tell you they want to go to the potty.
mm,
Who showed that
mm,
idea in their minds? And
mm,
so Bishop J.C. Ryle, I mean, in 1900, he wrote a book entitled it, Holiness. One of the things that he said, which is so relevant for the topic that we are discussing today, and even some of the questions that came, is that we shouldn't assume that it is the school systems that are spoiling our children. It's not only about the school systems, it is about the innate nature
mm.
of the fallen person, fallen humanity. And we have to deal with that before we send our kids to school. And I think by saying that, if there is no further question, I will pause here. And then next week, we will come to the substantive issue. Please don't miss it. Don't miss it. It's going to be more exciting. There's going to be more revelations. And you yourself, you're going to learn a lot of things. You know that, hey, so there are certain things that I have been believing and even acting upon them that are actually inconsistent with scripture. You better put a stop to that. I've given you one example. Believe, trust, hope, love, and have confidence in yourself. It's a humanist ideology. Our confidence is in the Lord. So, Papa, I think I'll end here.
You, Doug, thank you so much. Our viewers, our listeners, we thank you. We love you so much. God willing, next week, the same time, we will meet and we will continue. We have a lot to share with you. And so feel free, you can join us on our platform. If you have questions, comments, you can just continue to send them. I know Doctor will have time to read all of them. And God willing, next week when we meet, he will address all your concerns and your questions. Once again, we thank all of you. And Doug, we thank you so much. People of God, God willing, next week we will continue. Um, we love you so much, and we know next week you will definitely join us. Bye bye.